before 8, 10-2 or something.
Yeah, about 10-2.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to take a lady to a doctor.
Okay. Well, you do wonderful things there. Okay, so welcome everybody to our morning talk show, Talking Niagara. Every weekday morning at 7 a.m., the show for Niagara Falls and this area generally. Okay, and now today is January 21st, 2025. And so Trump was inaugurated yesterday. Did you see it on TV?
Yes, I did. I had to see the repeat. I saw it after he gave the inauguration speech, but a little later on, that inauguration speech was repeated, and I listened to it, and I thought, there's some positive. There were some positive things there. I could see the American people liking a lot of what he says, but some ridiculous things like changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. The Gulf of Mexico has been called that in the English-speaking world since 1589.
Yeah.
Long before there was 200 years before there was a United States, that Gulf was called the Gulf of Mexico and has been called the Gulf of Mexico the 200 years after that or more, the 240 years after that. And what significance that means is nothing.
Nothing. Irrelevant. It's an irrelevant. Yeah. An irrelevant. I have to say, I've never. I've seen. I've seen televised snippets from inaugurations. The only one I ever watched, and that was because I wasn't working at the time, was the actual Trump, the 2016 Trump inauguration.
Yeah, well,
and the interesting thing is about that is how well he did follow all the protocol, but I think everybody was watching out for when he didn't.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There were some things there. If he could stop those wars, that's good. I think Bibi Netanyahu is only doing as much as he has to placate Trump in hopes that he'll do what the Israelis have always done, just kind of waited and done what they wanted to do in time. They behaved themselves for a while, and then they just go do what they want to when the president changes or something. So I don't think what Trump has done there, and he's claimed victory getting starting the hostage exchange, but I don't think he really understands who he's dealing with there.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. And time will tell, right?
Time will tell. And the fact that that calling the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America after that's been a name for the place for 450 years is just idiotic. What it's doing, it's trying to it's trying to enhance American patriotism and said, yeah, this should be Gulf of America because America is around. Well, don't forget that Texas used to be part of Mexico. Florida used to be a Spanish holding as well. So when it got its name, it was surrounded by Spanish possessions that they called Mexico. So the whole idea of changing that name is just preposterous, and it's only there to fire up American patriotism. The whole idea of that, and I'm going to steal Greenland, and I'm going to make Canada the 51st province, and I'm going to take back the Panama Canal. These are
essentially. I do think that Trump wants to control every bit of territory between Greenland and the Panama Canal.
Well, yeah, it's a new manifest destiny. He wants to bring in the manifest destiny that the United States started back in 1820s. where it says we don't want any foreign power in too close to us, and you keep your hands out of here. Then they went along and did the Louisiana Purchase, which was lucky for them because they probably would have had to go to war with France to get it if they didn't. And then they started stealing big hunks of Mexico when Mexico was weak. So they took Texas, New Mexico,
California.
Arizona, and California, Nevada, all those things.
Yeah.
But that's historical, and nobody else in the world is going to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
Yep.
The United States may put it on their maps, but it's just a silly and petty thing. And it's just designed to show everybody, I'm the boss, America is the boss. We could change a name even if we want to. Yeah, and Mike is right. The Gulf of America is a distraction. And it's just a childish way of trying to enhance the American patriotism. It's a meaningless thing. and because even the Americans have called it the Gulf of Mexico for 250 years, doesn't seem to bother Trump at all on this.
Yeah.
So he wants to call it the Gulf of America. What does he want to do? Call Canada the Dominion of America too? As you want to call Greenland?
But again, we wouldn't be the 51st state. We would be, if we joined, we would be 51 to 63.
That doesn't matter at all. That doesn't make one big difference to Trump at all. He's just thumping his chest, and he knows the level of ignorance of the average American. The average American is a very fine person, but they are appallingly ignorant about the world.
The average American doesn't even understand that Canada butts onto America and has a land border, an 8,000-kilometer land border with America.
Yeah, many of them don't. I had a friend of mine going down there, and he had to do medical treatment down in Texas, and he would talk to his he had to stay in a hotel, and he talked to his American co-hotel dwellers basically. And some of them didn't even know there was a nation of Canada north of the border, and those that did had no clue what it was about. So Trump knows the level of ignorance that is down there in the United States, and I'm not saying that we don't share some of that ignorance, but the Americans are extremely ignorant, and that's because their educational system is so egocentric.
But again, everybody, you go to Britain, and we don't know, in Britain, nobody knew, and when I came to Canada, I'm learning about what Canada is like because you're not taught about it from Britain, right?
No,
you actually don't realize it's the second largest country in the world. You don't know that it is actually, you don't know too much about Canada. Because we're just not taught it in Britain, right?
Well, I have to hand it to my teachers in public school and in high school that I knew a lot about the world, a lot more about the world from them teaching me geography.
Yeah,
an American that travels is wise, but American that doesn't,
doesn't even know there's a land border there. Yeah.
And I remember talking to an American one time, and he, like many Americans at the time, thought that the American militias were the things that created the United States. No one in the States seems to understand the true history of their creation. It was a full army plus the militias, but it was a full army supplied by the French, and the French army and the French Navy as well. So you had a French army, you had the French Navy because the U.S. didn't have much.
Actually, and remember, the French Navy and Army was the second largest in the world at that time when the Revolutionary War occurred.
Yes, and
Second largest,
they
second
were
largest behind the British, right?
yeah. So the Americans wouldn't have had a chance if they didn't have the superpower. Not only was
Yeah,
France supplying them with guns and gunpowder, they were also an army in the United States, plus the mammoth navy, uh,
yeah.
which which Americans rarely speak about
See
when they talk
in
about the American Revolutionary War. So they don't even know their own history.
yeah, the 1770s, essentially, yeah, the two biggest armies and navies in the world was Britain and France, right? Um, Spain at that time, by the 1780s, 1770s, was a sunken power. It had already faded away, right, from history.
It was still it was a secondary power, but still significant. Uh, the Brits were fighting Spain and the Dutch at the same time they were fighting the Americans and the French. So the Brits
Yeah,
had 4 wars going on with no allies, but that doesn't seem to like when you never get that when you get American history being told,
yeah,
and and that's a kind of retelling of history that kind of eliminates. It gives you the idea this spunky little nation overcame the greatest power of the day. Well, no, it did it with the help of the second power, largest power of the day.
yeah. It's like Canada going to war with America and having Russian troops on its side, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's like
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So the so this idea that Mike said that this is a distraction changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which is just dumb, dumb, dumb. And it is a total distraction. And it is designed to show everyone, hey, we don't want, we're going to have no name of any water on ours. We're going to call it the Gulf of America, which is completely unoriginal, for one thing. You know, and what about the Caribbean nations that were in there? Don't they got to say, basically? But I don't know. It's just very, very silly to me. But it is designed to designed to enhance Americans' patriotism, I guess. And what he's saying is he's going to thump his chest and make everybody kowtow. Well, he does have a lot of power, and if he can stop the wars in Gaza, which I doubt that he can because Netanyahu will outmaneuver him some way, or some other Israeli leader has always done, outmaneuvered the Americans and made them pay for that. They will. I don't know if he stops the war in Ukraine, okay, but taking the Panama Canal back, and what he's saying that the Panama Canal is controlled by China. I like to see the evidence of that. We do know that 2 companies from Hong Kong won the bidding to to manage both ends of the Panama Canal, but that's a company managing the 2 different ports, the one on the north and one on the south. I ostensibly that is why Trump says it's being run by China, but it's being run by Chinese companies
that's
from
only yeah,
Hong.
but you see, that's only Panama giving a contract to a Chinese company, not being run by China. But I get where the fear comes from.
Yeah, and his pronouncement that the Americans, particularly the warships, are being paid extraordinary amounts to use the Panama Canal. I can see that Panama Canal is definitely a super security issue for the Americans, definitely. And the encroachment of China into all things is definitely a threat to American hegemony. But to make those kind of threats, um, I don't know. I want to see the proof before he starts belly aching like he is. Uh, Good morning, Peter, Dave, Mike,
Yeah,
by Randy West. you could stop at silly. You have now defined Trump. But he's a dangerous, silly man, and I don't know. The whole complexion of the United States has changed, and I'm very, very hopeful that the checks and balances that the fathers of the founding fathers have put into the United States actually are able to check the ambitions of Trump.
Yeah. Okay. So now we've talked a little bit about. Okay. So what stood out? What stood out from the ceremony yesterday to you?
To me, it was kind of the humiliation that Biden and Kamala Harris were taking it on the chin. They were sitting in the front row to the left of Trump, and as he's spouting off how the country had devolved in such a rotten way that
he's more or less pointing the finger right at them. Yeah.
Yeah, he's also yeah, we did it in a very undiplomatic and
but that was again the way he was when he took power in 2016. Very uncouth, very undiplomatic. And in fact, the uncouthness is actually one of the things that I don't like, never liked about Trump. Whatever you might say about his policies, that's a different matter. It's how he speaks that bothers me a lot.
You know, how he talked about tariffs too. The tariffs, when he talks about the tariffs, it doesn't sound as if he has a full understanding of what they are. He compared himself to McKinley, and McKinley had made America very prosperous by putting large tariffs on goods coming into the country. And the reason why McKinley did that was to motivate industry in the United States, particularly at that particular time. Britain, France, and Germany were economic industrial powers. What McKinley wanted to do was shut out their products enough so that America could start getting their
build their own
responded to. This is a completely different situation now, though. He talks about the tariffs as if we're the ones that are going to be paying the tariffs if he tariffs Canada goods. If he tariffs Canada's goods, that's the Americans that are going to pay that extra price. At the same time, he's talking about decreasing the amount of goods that the Americans can buy. And if you can't have one without the other. Like, what do you want? Do you want what do you want, left or right? You know what I mean? Do you want? And I don't mean politically.
No,
what do
I
you
know
want? If you want cheaper prices, if you put tariffs on things, that's just going to inflate the prices.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of it made sense.
Yeah. And we've had this discussion before about what he thinks about tariffs and how they're going to operate, because he thinks he's under the impression that, you know, if I've got $1,000 worth of steel I'm sending to the United States, that I'm going to pay $250 for, you know, that I, as the Canadian exporter, will be paying $250 to the American government in order to export that stuff.
Yeah,
and it does, but it won't cost the importer the $150. Whereas the reality is that I got $1,000 of steel I'm selling you as the American importer, and yes, you pay my $1,000, but now you've got to also pay $250 for the tariff guy, right?
Yeah, it's a tax on Americans, basically. So I have a feeling that he will rethink a lot of those tariffs on Canada. He also,
once it comes
remember,
around,
they're getting a lot of cheap stuff from Mexico too, which is kind of weird. That the stuff that's coming from Mexico, they have more of a trade with the U.S. than we do, and they
well, naturally,
and there's a lot of that's what it was said in one of the articles I read.
They're a bigger nation. They're a bigger nation population-wise than us. I'm not surprised that they've got more trade with the US.
Yeah.
And most of their stuff is cheaper, which is one of the challenges, of course. Right. Okay. To the tariff products keeps products out. Maybe, however, if the US doesn't own the equivalent in supplying the same, then the USA simply pays more for the same. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the blanket 25% tariff can't work if Trump wants to put pressure on Canada and Mexico, because what it will do if they don't have alternative supplies, and aluminum is a good fit here. If they don't, like, I think 90% of the aluminum in the United States comes from Quebec, basically, and they sell products, aluminum products, but they also sell aluminum ingots, which is a big part of it. So the Quebec, presumably with the large amount of hydroelectric power, can make a lot of aluminum very, very inexpensively. If you start putting 25% tariffs on that, then the Americans don't have an alternate place to buy aluminum. So what are they going to do? You know what I mean? So I expect that if he goes ahead with tariffs, there's going to be a lot of carve-outs to protect American industries that cannot get the equivalent product somewhere else, as Randy said.
Yeah. Okay. So moving. Oh, we got one more comment. When I heard Trump speak, it was all about MAGA, nothing about Canada. Well, he's speaking to America. I wouldn't expect him really to be addressing America, Canada, or any other nation. Come to that.
No, but he did say that he's going to change the name of Gulf of Mexico, which is,
yeah, that's dumb.
I think it's a kind of indication that he wants Greenland. He's very, very aggressive. Very, very aggressive. I'm going to take Greenland. I'm going to take Panama. I'm going to make Canada the 51st state. Very, very aggressive. And as I've said yesterday, that's the worst thing you can do. You've built up relationships. The United States has built up these trade relationships and these allegiances all over the West to enhance its hegemony. And for the most part, Canada, the Western Europe, and Australia, I guess, is going to get tariffs too. So all these different countries that are under the umbrella of the U.S. hegemony, they are leaders of the West. And now he's going to sort of slap us around and say, I'm boss man, don't forget that. And I'm going to hurt you. Well, what you want to do is build up trust. Obviously, he was very right about the NATO and the amount of money that different NATO countries are contributing to, to the NATO thing. We were all supposed to be giving 2%, but most of us weren't. And the United States is paying a lot of money, and they're sick of protecting us without us stepping forward. So I agree with them 100% on that. I agree with them also that our border security was pathetic, and that it was our fault too. But after that, these things can all be negotiated, and they can be done in a civilized way. There's always differences between countries, but you don't want to reduce your make yourself not trusted among your own allies. You don't want to go running around and punishing your own allies. What you want to do is work with them the best as you can and solve these differences in better than that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. In terms of, I'm not going to go there. Not going to go there. Right. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So Betty is saying our worry is to make sure Trudeau goes. Yep. for all the upsetting that Trump can be with his aggression, there is a whole lot of deaths behind him that he still has to convince in his scheme. Yeah, exactly. The bureaucrats, you see, when it comes down to it, Trump can say one thing and the bureaucrats kind of change it around to being something else entirely. Yeah, Trump and Trudeau make a deal. This we don't know.
No, I don't. Trudeau is a lame duck, so I don't know. We're in a really particularly bad position here,
Freeland, etc. Right?
Yeah, we're in a bad position where our government is a lame duck government right now. It's very unpopular. Yeah. We do need an election to mandate to somebody.
Yeah. Had we had a leadership, had the Liberals had a leadership change last year, when you first talked about it, or even hastened to say a year ago this time, the Liberals would have been in a much stronger position to be able to negotiate with Trump.
Yes.
Whoever was the new leader of the Liberal Party would have been in a much stronger position.
Yes. Yeah, the follies of Trudeau hanging on to power till the very last minute has put us in a pretty bad position.
Yeah.
And right now, it's going to be very difficult for us to galvanize around a central sort of government. The U.S. on their behalf, on their side, knows that we're in a weakened position because we have a lame duck government.
Yeah,
and there is an election coming up, so they're in a much more powerful position because they've just finished having their mandate and they have.
Yeah, they got 4 years.
Yeah, they got 4 years to do it.
Yeah,
and they have a president that's that has the power of the Congress and the Senate for at least 2 years.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So the new article that I sent you, Ford says he has needs a new mandate for dealing with Trump. Basically, he seems to be according to a lot of the papers, and I said it to you yesterday. I think Doug Ford's going to go for an early election, maybe as early as March.
Well, it's a politically astute thing to do, but I really don't appreciate having an expensive election during a time when we have a lot of problems anyway. We could certainly save the money for this election. We don't need it. Trump, though, or he's very much doing what Trudeau did back in around COVID times, when Trudeau could see that his popularity had spiked there because for a short time his popularity went up because of his response to COVID. And he thought, okay, I'm going to jump in right now. But by the time the election actually happened, the shine on him had gone off, and all he did was get exactly the government that he started with and wasted all that money.
Yeah.
Ford, on the other hand, is in a position where he does not have much of an opposition at all. And as a politically astute move, he can get 4 more years right now by doing what Trudeau did down at COVID time, by calling a snap election and trying to take advantage of the weakness of his opponents.
I think that he's most likely to win if he calls a snap election now. But I think if he could get hit by, we don't know what's coming down the line. We could end up with a weakening. Well, we already got a weakening Canadian economy, and on top of that, a weakening Ontario economy could be worse for worse for the Conservatives in a year or two's time.
Yeah, so there's a number of reasons why Ford wants to do the snap election, as I've said, because his opponents are in a very weak position.
Yeah.
He is very popular right now for standing up against Trump. Now he was already popular before this, he still had a popularity level, which is kind of hard to understand due to all those foibles going on there. But what he has done is he's said a lot of things about getting things done that previous governments have been sort of loath to do because they want to tangle roads up with 10 years worth of environmental studies, et cetera, et cetera. So what Ford says is let's get stuff done. He's brought the auto industry here in the EV industry in a big way. Yep. So right now he's standing on a crest or surfing on the crest, and I think he sees problems in the next 4 years, and he has to find a way through that. He doesn't want to have his election come up.
I actually will go further.
The economy of Ontario is tanking. He wants to get through that time and wait till it's on the ascendancy.
Yeah, I think I want to go further than that. I think his advisors have probably advised him that call an election now in 25 because in 26 we're going to have a downturn in the economy in the Ontario economy.
Yeah, we could be running into a real rough spell going forward. And I think, and because the economy has a whole lot to do with who gets in office, I think Ford sees is a politically astute move, just like Trudeau thought he was being smart by calling an election when his popularity levels went up temporarily because of the COVID reaction. It didn't work for him. It will work for Ford, though. He may not get as big a majority as he did this time, but he doesn't have anybody against him. The NDP and the Liberals hardly make it into the news. And when they do, their voices in the wilderness.
Yeah. In fact, both Merritt Stiles and Bonnie Crombie are kind of, who are they? You know?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. So the average Ontario person hardly knows who they are. Yeah. Now here, I bet you if we have an election here, I think Wayne Gates will win again. Because in this area, we go for the person more than we do for the party, it seems to me.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's an issue. There's a thing about that. There's a rumor out there. Thank you, John Ringo Beam, that in fact, actually, it is possible that Mayor Diodati would stand for PC on the PC platform.
I'm not so sure. Mayor Diodati's a big fish in a small pond. Does he really want to be a small fish in a big pond? Does he really want to start his political career all over again?
I don't know. I'm just repeating a rumor that I've heard.
I think that he may do that in the future because at this particular time, Wayne Gates is still very popular. So to throw his hat into the ring at this particular time, being a popular municipal politician is a lot different from being a popular provincial politician. He has the chops to be able to do it. He has a lot of political experience. So he does have, and he probably will have a lot of money backing him because he seems to have fairly good resources during election time.
The net result of that, of course, if he did stand and he won the election for PC for this riding, who would be mayor?
You're thinking Gates, right?
No. Sandra McKinnon would be mayor.
Yeah. So
for 2 years.
Well, they'll probably find a loophole that makes that not possible. But yeah, he doesn't have to step down as mayor until after the election, right?
No, if he got a new job, he would have to step down.
Yeah, but he could run otherwise. I'm not so sure. I think what he will do basically is he'll run for the Conservatives the next time, not this time, if he has aspirations to be a provincial. He may even go into federal, depending on what happens to our federal guy, not Benedetti,
Baldinelli.
Baldinelli, yeah.
I,
Yeah, Baldinelli. I think
he's gonna run
Baldinelli's probably in there for the duration.
Yeah, Baldinelli's a younger guy than the mayor. I don't see him stepping down anytime soon, but you never know. Politics is a strange thing.
Yeah, you might see Diodati trying to be the chair for the region, maybe, or some other thing. I'm sure that we saw that Wayne Thompson had a chance to bridge into federal and provincial politics, at least provincial anyway, I remember, and he chose not to do it. McGuinty asked him to run.
How much does it cost Ontario taxpayers to have Ontario commercial during a USA inauguration? I don't know. Good question. I don't know. I'm looking back. Barron was just a little fellow. Just look at him now.
Yeah, he's like what 6'3" or something, isn't he? He's like huge, like
6'9". Yeah, 6'9". That's what Mike's saying anyway. And then
there's another thing that's ominous about the American inaugural speech, and what nobody's talking about, well, only on the edges. I don't think that Trump will leave office. He's allowed 2 terms of office. I don't think he'll want to leave office. There is a lot of things happening in the United States that doesn't feel good to me, particularly the Biden pardons and those kind of things that is changing the character of the United States, obviously Biden and his allies figured that they had to do that, something they would never have considered in different times. So I have a feeling that Trump, around the time of the next election, will not want to go. If he makes it through this, I still think there's probably a sniper's bullet with his name on it somewhere, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because he's going to try to attack the swamp that he calls it. Right now, I think he's going to get rid of the swamp that there is and make his own swamp.
Yeah,
I don't find.
Okay. Wayne didn't want to start over again at his age. His words. Diodati will look to head the region to keep close to both his support, says Randy West. Yeah, well, this is another of the rumors that I've also heard. My computer wants to write its way. Okay. All right. Yeah. And okay. So while you talked about it, yeah, Biden pardons Fauci, Milley, and the January 6th panel as a guard against potential revenge by Trump.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier.
Crazy.
This is a preemptive pardon.
Yeah.
So nobody's done anything wrong, or everybody claims they've done nothing wrong. There is no evidence that any of them has done anything wrong, but they're afraid of the revenge of Trump and the hassles that they get. You can see how they were Congress has hassled to death Fauci, and yet they have come up with nothing that he's done wrong.
Yeah.
They just have all this innuendo, and you did this and you did that. And he keeps saying, you don't understand anything. Now, what that does, it makes it look as if, to some people, it makes it look as if the Biden is protecting the guilt of these people. He's protecting them from inevitable prosecution, and that they will be convicted. It's very clear that he said, I'm protecting these people from the harassment they will most certainly get under
Yeah.
the Trump administration. Trump being a very vengeful person in the view of the Biden administration. Now Fauci has said he has appreciated the preemptive pardon, and he said there's nothing I've done wrong. There's nothing I've done illegally.
Yeah.
And but if Trump comes for him, Trump and his goons come for him, he'll be tied up in controversy and he'll be tied up in legal battles for a very long time. It will
And won't be
really,
doing any
yeah. And
and
that's the
won't be
same
doing
for
any
Milley
research.
too.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
these people will be, now they're appreciative of the preemptive pardon, but of course they have two different views of it. I'm innocent. If it did ever go to court or if it did ever be able to come under investigation, I'm very positive that I'd win. But I'd have to put up with all this hassle and all this vitriol. Look at this, the stuff they level at Fauci. They just level hate at him, but they don't have any substance to it.
Yeah.
You did this, you did this, you did this, and it's never come to court. And if it did come to court, they would never win, but they would be able to hassle him forever and make his life miserable and make it like Fauci's family have all been under death threats in all the years that he's been, for the decades that he's been in the position he has been. He hasn't had death threats against himself and his family to the massive amounts of degrees that are happening now.
Yeah.
And that would go for Milley, and that also will go to Liz Cheney. They will be hassled and harangued for the rest of their life. So the preemptive pardon is good for that. But also the preemptive pardon makes it look a lot that they're protecting them against the crimes they've already committed. Potential crimes they've already committed. So you can.
Yeah. Well, but there's no indication they've committed any crimes.
Well, the impression is, and that's what the impression is, that
that's where,
people, you did.
That's where this unravels, right?
Crimes. Biden can't protect you anymore, so he's giving you a pardon. That's what it looks like.
I know. That's what it looks like, and that is where this is crazy.
Yeah, and Biden himself trying to claim throughout the whole election process that the judiciary is completely independent and non-political, and then pardon his son, and then do all these other pardons, belies that completely. What it shows is that he believes that the whole jurisdiction, or the justice system, has been weaponized and politicized. Ironically, that's exactly what Trump said in his inauguration speech. He says that the justice system has been weaponized and politicized, and that's why he has suffered so many legal battles because of that. And when Biden said, "Oh, no such thing," and then he pardons his own son because politics has entered the justice system. Well, he just lied to everybody until he knew that the Democrats weren't going to win the election, and then he did. He pardoned his son because why? Because the justice system had been politicized, and weaponized. And Trump said the same thing.
Yeah,
that's kind of a bitter irony to me that both the Democrats and the Republicans believe the justice system has been politicized and is no longer a fair system. Hi, Chris.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning, Chris. Okay. Anything else on the pardons?
No, it's just an extraordinary thing. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I hope that Trump gets bogged down with more mundane things for the government, but he's already kind of trying to push his weight around by changing the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, where after the Gulf of of Mexico has been called that for 450 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it's like as if Canadian maps will show it, or Australian maps will show it, or British maps or French maps will show it as anything else but Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. No, they're gonna, and it's gonna have a lot of problems for those international agencies that that map and monitor different waterways and so on. So, yeah, that's dumb. It's just dumb.
Okay, to answer Chris's question, the January 6th panel was actually the panel that did the investigation over whether the January 6th, 2020 issues were actually, 2021 invasion of the Senate was actually
Capitol building.
Capitol building was led by Trump.
Yeah, it's also I should add too that a lot of the police that were involved in in trying to hold back the crowds and got injured and so on, they have also been pardoned because the current administration feels that they will also be come after. Trump mentioned in his inauguration speech there, or somewhere after that, after the inauguration speech, that only one person actually got shot, and that was one of the protesters got shot. There was a woman; she got shot to death. But some of the cops got tasered, and they also, because they bore witness at the January 6th committee, they are in danger too of being harassed. So the police who did get this preemptive pardon appreciated it very much because they expected to be harangued and harassed just for testifying. Anyway, I got to go. Wait a minute. I got 5 more minutes. Yeah, before I go.
Yeah. Well, okay. So very quickly then, in this last session, let's move on to the spat between the Hotel Association and the City of Niagara Falls. And basically, the Hotel Association is saying they want us to suck and blow at the same time. What's this about, Dave?
Well, this is I don't know if I can do it in 5 minutes, but this is what has happened up until now. There's been a $2 fee on every room. That's a tourist fee, basically, on every room that is given to a tourist that comes into town, and they have to pay this $2 fee, and that $2 fee then goes into the Niagara Tourist Board or whatever it is, and then what they do with that $2 is to market Niagara Falls.
That's exactly what it's there for. Yeah.
Yeah. So the city is trying to take this out of the hands of the hoteliers, and they don't like it.
It should never have been in the hands of the hoteliers in the first place. Absolutely not. It was the wrong place to put it, in the Hotel Association. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. It should have been in the hands of the city, and it should have been in a committee for the development of tourism in Niagara Falls.
All right, so this happened last meeting, basically, in one of the last meetings, anyways. For those that missed it, and this is an opinion piece, so it is in the first person.
Yeah.
And I'll try to condense the debate that went on for more than an hour. The city wants to change the municipal accommodation tax agreement it has with Niagara Falls Hotel Canada Hotel Association in a way that benefits both sides. Introduced in 2018, the tax was fixed at an amount of $2 per night. And right now, what the city wants to do is increase that, and in a year or two, make it a percentage. Basically, if you're at a 5-star hotel, you'll pay X amount of percentage, right? So if you're in a big hotel with a big big room cost, then you'll pay more because of the percentage. But if you're in a more modest room, you'll pay less. Right now, the city proposed bylaws that would change the rate depending on the hotel. 5-star hotels could charge $7 per person. 2-star hotels will pay $4, etc. Until then, in 2026, it will go to a percentage, 4% of the room rate, basically. So if you pay $100 for the room, it'll be $4. $4 if you pay $200 for the room, $8, so on.
Yeah,
sounds right.
Well,
But the thing that sounds right. Now, the reason why the city wants to get their hands on this a little bit is because our tourism is going flat, and they don't believe it's being marketed well enough.
Yeah. And it should never have been in the hands of the Niagara Falls Canadian Hotel Association. That is not the way the law is written. The law is written such that the municipal accommodation tax is actually supposed to go to the municipality for the sole purpose of marketing the city. And in our city, it should probably therefore be divided between the city and the Niagara Parks.
Well, the mayor got very angry because the hotel association, with using that kind of money, decided not to support the New Year's Eve concert that we have down there because the rooms were already full and they didn't think they had to do that, and they're going to save some money. But where is that money going? And
that money, the concert money would be valid to come out of that pot.
Now, here is another thing. Now, I only got a couple minutes. I got to go, but this is the big one to me, and I think we should talk about this again tomorrow.
Sure.
But that wasn't the biggest blunder. No, that would be the infamous DMF, destination marketing fee, among its many shady names,
and that's illegal
by different names, that the tourism industry has been gouging people with for more than 20 years. It is introduced by the province's Ministry of Tourism as a voluntary fee businesses can add to bills to support the tourism and marketing and development. So you have a tiered thing here. It suggested that 3%, but sure enough, some hotels were charging up to 10% on bills, angering and confusing tourists. Worse, there was no third-party group to disperse the funds like Toronto and Ottawa does. Each businesses collect the money, kept it with no accountability on how it was spent, and that to me is the biggest.
And that destination fee, because of the municipal accommodation, the tax, the destination fee is now illegal.
But they're still using it.
Oh, they still use it here. They still use it here, but it is illegal to charge it.
But they are doing it.
I know they're doing it, and it goes into the profits of the hotelier. It doesn't even go anywhere else. If it were going anywhere, that should be going to the hotel association.
Yes, it says the municipal accommodation tax was supposed to replace that.
Yeah,
it was supposed to replace that, but of course, some Niagara hotels choose to charge both. I checked one major hotel website Monday. The room was $168.26. The tax was 13%. That's the one that has no accountability, that goes straight into their pocket. It's not spent on tourism. Plus the $2 per room charge. That's the one that's used for marketing Niagara Falls. Plus some other mysterious fee of 11.49%, with a total of $213.98. So you think you're going to get a room somewhere around the $170, but what you do is you pay $214.
Yeah.
DMF is so appallingly abused in this city. It was the subject of 3 separate CBC marketplace reports. And yet
all of them have called have used the term rip off Niagara. I've seen them. I've seen these reports.
And when the chief administrative officer, Jason Burgess, brought it up, Burrell, who speaks for the hotels, arrogantly dismissed it. Has there been some media about some fees not related to just hotels? Sure, but fees are part of traveling. Yeah, so basically that is a little bit of a sideline for them. It's more money. It's money that's taken. It irritates the tourists, and our tourism is going flat. So no wonder Diodati and the rest of the council wants to get in on this. Anyway, gotta go.
You got to go. And that's one of the reasons why, of course, people are just coming by train for the day and going. All right. I'm going to put the last of these comments up, guys, and then I'll be disappearing. So no day rooms, no more smart on the hotel's part. Yeah. The hotels simply don't want the city's hands on their pockets. Yep. At a fixed percentage down the road. Yeah. Hotel taxes, just like a tariff. Yeah. And you drive safe as well, Betty. All right. So thank you, everybody, especially for your comments. And we will be back tomorrow with further stories. All right. And have a great day, everybody. And one of the things we'll be looking at is Gates' statement about needing to invest in our neighbors rather than worry about the US. All right. So we'll leave it at that and see you and have a